like everything is fine.
Is there something in your car?
A lot of species in this area are rare. What
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Death of a Unicorn is one of those rare films that instantly sparks curiosity simply from its title. The story unfolds as a mysterious, darkly imaginative blend of fantasy, drama, and symbolism, inviting audiences into a world where innocence and myth collide with greed, guilt, and human ambition. At its heart, the film explores how modern society reacts when confronted with something pure and otherworldly, in this case, the mythical unicorn, and how that encounter reveals deeper truths about morality, power, and human nature. The narrative begins with what seems like an ordinary journey and soon transforms into an extraordinary exploration of the choices that define who we are and what we value. The film follows a father and daughter who, while traveling late at night through a remote forest, accidentally hit something with their car. When they get out to investigate, they discover that the creature they've struck is no ordinary animal. It's a unicorn, glowing faintly even in death, its presence both haunting and awe-inspiring. What begins as shock quickly becomes a moral dilemma. What do they do with a creature that shouldn't exist? This premise sets the stage for a story that balances wonder with unease, as the characters grapple with the weight of their discovery and the temptations that follow. The father, a man caught between practicality and conscience, sees the unicorn as a mystery to be protected, while others in the story, once they learn of it, view it as an opportunity for profit, fame, or power. His daughter, curious and pure-hearted, represents the film's moral compass. Through her eyes, the audience experiences both the beauty of the unicorn and the tragedy of its loss. Her perspective challenges the adults around her, raising questions about humanity's relationship with nature, myth, and the unknown. The contrast between innocence and exploitation drives much of the film's emotional tension, making it not just a fantasy story, but a reflection of human greed and spiritual decay. As the plot develops, the unicorn's death becomes the catalyst for chaos. Word spreads about the creature, attracting the attention of scientists, government officials, and corporate figures who all want to claim it for themselves. The father and daughter find themselves caught between these forces, struggling to protect the unicorn's remains from being turned into a commodity. The story uses this conflict to comment on how society often reacts to miracles, not with reverence, but with the desire to possess and control them. It's a sharp and haunting metaphor for how wonder is often corrupted by ambition. Visually, the film immerses viewers in an atmosphere of eerie beauty. The forest is depicted as both enchanting and foreboding, with mist, moonlight, and shadows playing crucial roles in shaping the film's tone. The unicorn itself is portrayed with subtle, almost ethereal realism, not as a cartoonish fantasy creature, but as something ancient and otherworldly, whose presence feels sacred and unsettling at the same time. The cinematography balances the quiet intimacy of personal moments with the vastness of nature, reinforcing the theme of humanity's smallness in the face of the mystical and unknown. The emotional core of Death of a Unicorn lies in the relationship between the father and daughter. Their bond evolves as they navigate fear, guilt, and moral uncertainty. The daughter's innocence contrasts with her father's growing sense of responsibility and regret, creating a powerful emotional thread that grounds the film's fantasy elements in human truth. The dialogue between them reveals their internal struggles, the father's fear of doing the wrong thing, and the daughter's unshaken belief that some things are too sacred to be tampered with. Their journey becomes a test of character and faith, forcing them to choose between self-interest and doing what's right. The tone of the film shifts masterfully between moments of wonder and unease. There are sequences where the unicorn's presence, even in death, brings a sense of magic and mystery, while others are heavy with dread as human greed takes over. The blending of these tones creates a tension that keeps viewers emotionally engaged, uncertain whether the story will lean toward redemption or tragedy. This unpredictability gives the film a distinct emotional rhythm, where beauty and horror coexist, much like in the myths that inspired it. Beyond its surface story, Death of a Unicorn carries deeper symbolic meanings. The unicorn represents purity, hope, and the fading of magic in the modern world. Its death can be seen as a metaphor for humanity's loss of innocence, the destruction of wonder through materialism and control. The characters' reactions to the unicorn mirror the broader struggles of society, whether to protect what is sacred or exploit it for gain. Through its imagery and storytelling, the film suggests that true magic exists not in what we find, but in how we choose to treat the extraordinary when it crosses our path. The supporting characters add layers of complexity to the narrative. Each one represents a different response to the discovery, curiosity, fear, greed, and reverence. Scientists see the unicorn as a specimen to be studied, investors see it as a priceless opportunity, and others view it as a divine sign. These conflicting perspectives drive much of the drama, creating moral and ethical debates that feel grounded and real despite the film's fantastical premise. Their interactions reflect humanity's constant tug-of-war between wonder and exploitation. Musically, the score enhances the film's emotional power. The soundtrack shifts between hauntingly beautiful orchestral themes and quieter atmospheric tones that evoke mystery and melancholy. The music reflects the emotional journey of the characters, the awe of discovery, the sorrow of loss, and the rising tension as moral choices become harder to ignore. The sound design complements this with subtle layers, the rustle of trees, distant echoes in the forest, and the soft, almost imperceptible hum that accompanies the unicorn's presence, even in silence. The pacing of the film builds gradually, allowing the audience to feel the weight of each decision and the growing sense of danger. Early scenes are filled with quiet awe, but as more people become aware of the unicorn, the story's intensity increases. Confrontations, betrayals, and moments of reflection create a dynamic flow that keeps the narrative engaging. By the time the climax arrives, every choice feels earned and the emotional stakes are deeply felt. One of the film's greatest strengths is its ability to blur the line between myth and reality. The unicorn is not simply a fantasy creature, it's a mirror reflecting human nature. Its existence challenges the characters to confront what they truly believe in: science, spirituality, or greed. The film never over-explains its mysteries, instead leaving room for interpretation. This open-ended approach invites viewers to think deeply about what the unicorn represents to them, whether as a symbol of lost innocence, a test of morality, or a glimpse into something beyond human understanding. The performances bring depth and nuance to the story. The actors convey a range of emotions, fear, awe, regret, and hope, that make the fantastical elements feel grounded and real. The father's conflicted emotions, torn between protecting his daughter and dealing with external pressures, are portrayed with authenticity. The daughter's quiet strength and moral clarity anchor the story, making her both the emotional and ethical center of the film. The supporting cast adds tension and perspective, creating a world where every character's motives feel believable. As the story moves toward its conclusion, the moral weight of the characters' choices becomes clear. The unicorn's death sets off a chain of events that forces each person to confront their own values. The daughter's innocence becomes a guiding light, influencing her father's decisions in ways that ultimately lead to redemption and understanding. The ending, while tinged with sadness, carries a sense of closure and spiritual awakening. It leaves the audience reflecting on the film's central question: what is the true cost of wonder in a world driven by possession and control? Death of a Unicorn also stands out for its emotional realism. Despite its fantasy premise, the story remains deeply human. Themes of family, loss, and redemption run through every scene, giving the film an emotional honesty that resonates long after it ends. It's a story about responsibility to each other, to the natural world, and to the unseen magic that still exists in the spaces between belief and disbelief. The film's message is subtle yet powerful. Miracles may be rare, but how we respond to them defines who we are. Throughout its runtime, the film balances introspection with suspense. It doesn't rely on spectacle alone, but on atmosphere, emotion, and the quiet power of its ideas. The tension doesn't come from monsters or explosions, but from moral uncertainty and human flaws. This approach gives the story a timeless quality, aligning it more with myth and allegory than conventional fantasy. The result is a cinematic experience that feels intimate and profound, a reflection on how even in an age of logic and technology, some mysteries are meant to remain untouched. In its final moments, the film circles back to its emotional core, the bond between father and daughter. Their journey, though marked by loss, becomes a story of understanding and healing. The unicorn, though gone, leaves behind a sense of awe and transformation that changes them forever. The ending lingers, filled with quiet emotion and the haunting beauty of unanswered questions.